Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the Road Racing Program Direction session. I am Eric Prill, Vice President of Road Racing, and I'm also joined here in Chile, Kansas, by Jeff Barrow, who is the Director of Road Racing. One housekeeping note before we start. We haven't typically answered questions during this presentation. However, if we have some time at the end, we'll check the Q&A board within Zoom to see if there's anything that we need to answer. If we don't get to your question, we will have a lot more time devoted to Q&A during the Road Racing Town Hall Monday evening, where we will be joined by Club Racing Board Chairman John LaRue and Chairman of the Executive Stewards, Kevin Coulter. Also, because we're a two-man show here, it's a lot easier for us to handle the live questions in one place. So we'll be monitoring Zoom during the session. If you post a question within Whova, we'll try to go back after the fact and type in some responses there. So with that, we'd like to start with a recap of 2024 and then look ahead to the programs and initiatives of 2025. This first participation chart shows regional event participation by division. It goes back to 2018 because that was the first year we had complete participation data, meaning that the national office started receiving the orbits timing file for each and every event, and we imported that data into our NetForum association management software. And that ties actual event participations to each member and to each event. It's important to note as well that in 2021, we had a change in how audits were reported and how events were counted. So we have apples to apples comparison data from 2021 through today. You'll see how that affects the event average entry, which is that bottom line there. As you can see, for the last 4 years, the per event entry count has been really consistent around 82 cars. When we look at that same chart for US Majors Tour events, which includes both Hoosier Super Tours and Conference Majors events, we see that entries were down about 5% between 2022 and 2023, but then that ticked up in 2024 with an increase of 3% in total entries, despite having one fewer event. Now that resulted in a per event average of just shy of 150 entries.
In the excuse me, in the Super Tour events, we had 10 Super Tour events in 2024, which is consistent with previous years. Similar to the overall majors program, we saw an uptick in participation in 2024 of 10%. Keeping with the trends of 2023, there were, of course, weather and economic impacts that negatively affected participation. But we certainly believe that the runoffs venue change to Road America helped offset that, along with a very strong Spec MX5 class, which averaged 22 entries at each Super Tour event. On the competition license side, here's a look at the full competition license holders for the last 6 years. This chart includes anyone that held a competition license at some point in 2024. Some license reports in the past may have shown this a little bit differently, with a snapshot of the number of license holders at a specific date each year. However, this look gives us a better idea of how many SCCA racers we had each year. We also included on this slide the unique novice permit holders for the last 6 years. And you can see that there was over a 22% increase in novice permits from 22 to 23, with a similar number of novice permits issued in 24. Novice permits, as you well know, are good for 2 years. So hopefully we will see many of those people upgrade to full competition license in the next year or so. On the specialty license side, this slide reflects the number of specialty licenses that we had in 2023 and 24 by specialty. You will notice that there are 5 categories on this slide that are in red, which means the number of licenses has reduced from 23 to 24. But there's some good news here. While there's still 5 specialties that shrunk in 2024, in 2023, we actually had 8 specialties that shrunk. Our largest specialty, flagging and communications, saw nearly 30% growth in license holders. Much of that can be attributed to the flagging and communications training that launched in the SCCA Academy in the third quarter of 2023, along with the coupled requirement of the FIA events in the United States to have licensed marshals has helped that number increase. And of course, keeping with the convention theme, it's critical that we make sure we invite those folks to our events. They're trained to work, but let's make sure we really make them part of the club. Be sure to check out Sydney's presentation, which is inviting volunteers to SCCA events. And I believe that is Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern. Eric.
The likely to recommend metric is used by every program in the club, and it provides a good indication of where we need to focus our attention. Sometimes the likely to recommend scores are affected by things outside of our immediate control, such as weather, but oftentimes, even those factors exist, there are still opportunities to learn and adapt to improve. Our lowest scored Super Tour events in 2024 were at Road Atlanta and Road America. Both had significant weather challenges, and both had significant on-track challenges that threw the event schedule off. While the runoffs was a success from a worker standpoint, there were a number of factors that led to lower scores than usual from drivers. Common threads from post-event survey were on-track issues where track time was reduced, frustration with some rulings by officials, and hiccups experienced with our first implementation of the Flagtronics electronic flagging system as a requirement. Now, the good news is much of this can be improved upon, and the staff and lead officials have already begun those efforts. For the 2024 Hoosier Super Tour, we saw the debut of the Spec MX5 class, as Jeff referenced earlier, and that became the 3rd largest class in the series, and it brought a huge number of new racers and teams to SCCA. After our experience in 2023 at the runoffs with Flagtronics, we used it at every Super Tour event, with its use in the car optional for the racers. We returned to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the first time in several years on its new pavement, which attracted a lot of racers. With Mazda's support, we introduced the new class ambassador concept for Spec Miata and the SMX classes. And we welcome back Driver's Eye Live streaming for the 2nd year and saw considerable growth in views, hours watched, and impressions through SCCA's YouTube channel.
Now let's take a look at the 60th anniversary National Championship runoffs presented by Sunoco by the numbers. Driver numbers were up this year over 2023 at 513, and we had an astounding 415 volunteer workers on site supporting and officiating the event, plus numerous crew, vendors, partners, friends, family, and fans. You'll see that our top 5 subscribed classes were SRF3 with 57, Spec Miata at 49, Formula V with 27, and we had 26 F production drivers and 25 B-Spec drivers. We crowned 26 new class champions to the historic runoffs list, including the 2 Super Sweep winners, which were Tyler Ladd and Russ Turner. We celebrated 7 deserving workers and awarding them Worker of the Year presented by Mazda in their specialties, and we distributed more than $4,000 in cash to workers donated by runoffs drivers. We streamed every every race live with Apex broadcast, resulting in a 37% increase in viewership over 2023. We had 6 block party stops on Wednesday, a 60th anniversary party with the band Back Roads and your lead singer, Eric Prill. 11 shirtless fans in Victory Circle. We ate millions of brats and gallons of spotted cow consumed. And finally, 1 marriage proposal in Victory Circle to cap off the event. We'd also like to extend our continued thoughts and well wishes to our SCCA family for a few of those who are still recovering from medical events sustained at the runoffs. Back to you, Eric.
So now, thanks, Jeff. We'll turn the page and we'll look ahead to 2025. In the coming slides, we will introduce your 2025 program leaders, highlight changes to aspects within the program, and talk about a few of our initiatives.
I'm going to take a look at the boards. Here's a look at the 2025 Club Racing Board. All of our 24 members return this year, and we certainly like to thank them for the monumental task of overseeing the road racing program. We'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize the members serving on various advisory committees who work together with the CRB in establishing the rules and standards for the road racing program. Of course, we're always looking for the next generation of committee members. So if you're interested, please submit your resume through the SCCA letter system at crbscca.com. 24 was a big transition year for our executive stewards. 2/3 of our executive stewards changed, with 6 new or returning execs serving their divisions. We also welcomed a new chairman in Kevin Coulter, and they left their pictures here just in case you didn't get to meet them this year. So you can see them clockwise from the top. Kevin, Mike, Bill, Brad, Bob, Jim, and finally Kathy in the center. With a significant transition in 2024, we'd welcome all 10 of them back in 2025, and we'd like to thank them for their countless hours and their commitment each year to help oversee the events and programs with their divisions. Just a reminder to join us Monday evening at 9 Eastern, 8 Central for the Road Racing Town Hall to hear from Kevin Coulter along with John LaRue, CRB Chair, as they discuss their goals and initiatives for the upcoming 2025 season. Our Court of Appeals is made up of these fine, talented individuals, and we'd like to thank James Foyle for their service on the Court of Appeals since 2021. And we welcome back Jack Kish to the COA. And thanks to the rest of the team, Costa, Bev, Lee, Lori, Rick, and Spencer for your continued service to the COA. Bev's Training Development Committee. We welcome back the 24 lineup to continue their good work, and some much needed updated training courses in the SCCA Academy for the Stewards program will be implemented.
The Race Experience Board focuses on entry level and low barrier to entry road racing opportunities. This is a growing part of SCCA's program, and we encourage you to join 2 sessions this week that the chairman and staff member, John Krolowitz, will lead. More on the Road Racing Experience program in a bit. On this slide, you'll see the names of our team that supports the Hoosier Super Tour Series. A few of these names attend all 10 events, while others, most of the events, will attend some. We would like to welcome Joe Stadelman, Greg Ami, Jeffrey Nice, Dan Miklovic, and Randy Langer to the team, many in new roles. And of course, as many of you know, there is sadly a name missing from this lineup. We were all heartbroken to lose Mike West just before Christmas. Mike was a Super Tour race director for many years, past executive steward. chairman of the Court of Appeals, many-time award honoree driver, and a friend to us all. We will miss him, and I am sure we will think about him often during the Super Tour season and at the runoffs, where he was scheduled to become the race director in the coming years. No easy transition out of that, but this is the road racing team for 2025 as it stands right now. About 10 months ago, we welcomed Jeff to the team as our new director of road racing. Throughout 2024, Jeff worked closely with our previous road racing director, Deanna Flanagan, to come up to speed. He brings a lot of ideas, skills, and business relationships to our team. And we continue to have Deanna down the hall as a resource as well in her new role as Director of Program Services. Some big news last week that was shared is that Scott Dobler has been promoted to Series Manager, where he will lead the traveling roadshow of the Super Tour, as well as continue supporting the tech efforts and the club racing board through Fast Track and GCR updates. You can see the rest of the staff team with Scott Schmidt, S1, John Krolowitz, and Sydney. We do have a vacancy in Topeka for our assistant manager position. This is heavy on the administrative services, and being in the Topeka office is a must. So if you do know of somebody that would be a good fit, please send them our way. Next up are 2025 program updates, as there have been quite a few. So we already talked about some personnel changes within the road racing program. Now let's get to some of the more noteworthy items evolving or changing for 2025, as there are many. On the program changes front, we will have some slides to review the changes to the national racing program, including the runoffs, Super Tour, and majors programs. We will review the announced class evolution changes. And we've put a priority focus on our race experience program. We'll talk a bit more about that on the program side. We also have a number of program-related initiatives in flight. We will review our Flagtronics use up to now and discuss the next steps. We'll talk a bit more about the Academy and how it's been busy developing online training courses for both drivers and specialties. And then something that we should also mention, and you saw it on the Super Tour staff page, is the class ambassador position that was piloted in 2024 at select Super Tours with the support of Mazda for its Spec Miata and SMX classes. The class ambassador, I'll just go ahead and touch on this right now. The class ambassador is an individual that works within the class community, as well as with the race director, with the goal to help everyone have the best experience possible. The close racing in spec classes sometimes leads to disputes between drivers on track, and the ambassador starts those conversations with the racers and then works with the race director to determine the next steps in the officiating process if it's needed. In this session last year, we noted that the Club Racing Board had begun to look at the strategy of categories and classes within the GCR, as well as the overall program, including events and championships. The CRB, along with staff and members of the board of directors, began a series of meetings in 2023 and continued them through 2024, focused on the future of the road racing program. The goals identified were to improve the runoffs experience, improve the participant experience and competition at majors events, and to support class evolution. As the plans were finalized, a series of announcements were made from June through November of this last year, 2024, detailing the rationale behind the changes and the changes themselves, as well as the timeline for implementation. In those webinars, you may remember that I shared a few famous quotes, and here's a good one to start with. By changing nothing, nothing changes. Each year, we gather survey feedback from the runoffs and spend a considerable amount of time reading through the comments about why our participants like or didn't like different aspects about the event. We also receive feedback from people that don't attend the event about why and what might help them consider attending it in the future. Now, mind you, none of that feedback is unanimous. Different people like different things, but a considerable theme and consistent theme for years has been that the time commitment of the runoffs is simply too great, and that it is time to shorten the runoffs. Ideas have been floated, and we've dipped our toe in the water with a couple of them. As an organization, we've been hesitant to upset the apple cart. The team has brainstormed, modeled, and analyzed a number of different ways to structure the runoffs as an event with the goal of shortening the time commitment for all participants. In fact, we have files dating back at least 15 years with plans for split schedule, rolling schedules, reimagined championship structures. And each time a good concept came up, a deeper dive revealed inherent flaws that would ultimately prevent it from moving forward. Trading one set of issues for another was not believed to be progress. So the first part of the runoffs proposal is to conduct the entire event, including optional testing, qualifying, and racing over a period of 7 days, Monday through Sunday. This will include 3 days of optional testing, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, qualifying on Thursday and Friday, and 2 days of racing, Saturday and Sunday. Each qualifying day can accommodate 18 20-minute sessions, and race days can accommodate 9 races per day. This would reduce the time requirement for the runoffs to be equal or slightly more than our 3-day super tours, of course, with the option of extending for some additional practice. It is important to note that, unlike some other proposals, this schedule model shortens the event for everyone involved: drivers, teams, volunteers, partners, vendors, and staff. Well, gee, Eric, if you wanted to shorten the entire event, why are we still doing 3 days of testing before qualifying? Great question. The reality is that someone will either rent the track and conduct testing, or the track will do it themselves. Many participants want to test. They want the additional practice. In fact, in 2024, 84% of the entered drivers did at least one test day. So putting the business hat on, the test days contribute to the overall revenue of the event to cover the total event expenses, much of which is not variable by simply adding or subtracting a day. Revenue from optional things like test days and variable things like paddock fees based on how much space you need ultimately reduce the entry fee for the race. To get down to 3 days, from 3 days to 2 days of racing, we have to reduce the number of race slots in total. We can adequately manage 9 races per day, inclusive of all the fanfare that comes with the highest honor in amateur road racing in North America. That means we have 18 time slots. You'll remember from an earlier slide that we had 26 separate class races and champions in 2024 across the 3 days. That means to get to 18 run groups, some classes may race together at the runoffs in 2025. They may be consolidated with another class, or they may not be included in the 25 runoffs. Participation, growth potential, and diversity of the class offerings are among the criteria considered when determining which classes are invited to the runoffs, with an automatic invitation to classes that achieve the minimum of 5.0 cars moving forward. It was 4.0 prior to this year. It'll be 5.0 going forward, and that's over a 2-year period of majors and runoffs racing. So again, the old 4.0 rule, what we'll call the 5.0 rule now, it's not a requirement for a class to average 5 cars per event to be included in the runoffs. It's just a way to guarantee an invitation. The 5.0 number is set specifically to ensure that less than 18 classes are likely to achieve it. If we had more than 18 classes achieve 5.0, we wouldn't have the run group space to accommodate them. This just ensures that the most popular classes entry-wise are guaranteed a place to race. This number is important because by 2026, only 18 classes are planned to be invited to the runoffs. Before we get down to 18 classes, we will have a transition year in 2025, including as many 2024 participants as feasible from consolidation, on-track compatibility, and then ultimately limit the number of combined class races to 2 classes, so there is only a single split start. So you'll see in this chart that prototype is a new class with an option for both P1 and P2 cars to make modifications to combine into that single class. You'll also see the reference to GT Light as a spec line within F production. So these are consolidations that are in effect for 2025. Of this list, 2 additional consolidations are being evaluated with GT3, which is called GT3U during this transition year, slated to be combined with Super Touring Under come 2026. It was also announced in August that Touring 2 and American Sedan were being considered for consolidation, and I know that that is still being evaluated by the CRB. Even with the in-flight consolidations, there are still more than 18 classes on this list. So there will be the need for some additional consideration to pare down to 18 classes by 2026.
Okay, let's take a look at how we get there. This is the runoffs qualification criteria. Regarding the paths to qualify for the runoffs, we gave quite a bit of consideration to tightening up performance criteria with regard to the conference point standings. But with all the other changes that are going on, it was determined that we would table that change to the portion of the qualifying through the U.S. Majors Tour. The one change that will be implemented in 2025 is the discontinuation of the seldom used divisional path for the runoffs, which is largely comprised of regional sanctioned events. And it's important, excuse me, it is important to note that the team considers to believe and support the notion that the regional racing program is and should continue to be managed by the regions and formatted to satisfy the needs of local participants. A nationwide set of classes or rules is not adequate on its own to address some of the unique interests of these racers. Discontinuing the divisional path to the runoffs allows regions to focus on local championships and lowers barriers to entry. Programs like that offered through the race experience can add opportunities for new participants for regional race weekends. With all that said, we can mark our calendars for the 2025 runoffs as we return to Road America for the 62nd running of the SCCA National Championship runoffs. Remember that the runoffs, of course, will be shortened by 2 days this year, and the dates listed are, as Erica had explained before, with testing Monday through Wednesday, qualifying Thursday and Friday, and racing Saturday and Sunday. Be sure to follow our runoffs event page at scca.com/runoffs, and we'll post event information as it becomes available.
A deep dive into the participation data of these programs reveals that there are key events and classes that have good, consistent attendance and are considered healthy by SCCA's traditional metrics. Data also supports the notion that some classes have higher participation at specific tracks due to track characteristics or a larger population of cars in a given geographic area. Other classes are drawn to specific event types. Due to their popularity, many of the Super Tour events have experienced some overcrowding. if not in the entire event, certainly within certain run groups. The only way to alleviate some of this stress on the groups is to split some of the multi-class run groups up. And most super tours are already at the limit for the number of run groups that can be included in the schedule. Each of these events is a delicate balance of track time, compatibility, and realistic event operations. Different tracks have different policies. Some 3-day events can accommodate 9 run groups, while others have situations such as daylight, sound restrictions, track rules that limit them to 8 groups. Unfortunately, there is only so much time available in the day. And we find ourselves in a position that the only way to consistently provide the expected participant experience and to be able to accommodate potential growth is to create space for an additional run group. And the only way to create that space is to remove something that was in the current structure. So West Coast Hoosier Super Tours, which this year the events at Buttonwillow and Portland don't traditionally have an overcrowding issue. Classes and groups are consistently evaluated based on their participation and their compatibility for combinations. The small formula FF, FV, F600 run group is the lowest car count run group consistently at the Super Tours. And in 2024, it was 13 cars lower on average than the next smallest group. There are limited to no options for further combination. These 3 classes can run together on track, but there are few, if any, other classes that are good fit for group combinations. This run group, these classes will be included in the Buttonwillow and Portland events. Again, these events were not viewed to have the critical issue with the schedule that the rest of the events did. Immediately after the 2024 June sprints at Road America, the Chicago region began discussing the possibility of the event returning to its roots as a single race weekend. Due to the high entry count, the 2024 event expanded to effectively have 10 run groups during the weekend, which is nearly impossible to achieve unless there are no delays whatsoever. And with that number of entries, and then some weather challenges factored in, the schedule became unrealistic. The working group of the Club Racing Board of Directors, and the staff granted the sprints the option to run a single race format for the small formula run group, if that was the region's desire. The group felt that if there was an event that could be successful with that format, it was this one. For many, many years, that's the way it ran. And after surveying the participants and discussing the options for its 70th anniversary running of the June sprints, the region opted to go to a single race format for 2025 with all of the 2024 classes instead of the 2 race event format without the small formula car run group. Acknowledging that drivers in the Formula F, Formula V, and Formula 600 classes were losing racing opportunities within the conference and the Super Tour championships, and toward runoffs qualification for those classes included in the 25 runoffs, the team worked with Super Tour host regions to develop a group of replacement events for those same tracks. These have been announced as bonus majors. Jeff, you want to talk about those?
There we go. We directly worked with those Super Tour host regions to develop this bonus majors plan, and it's a schedule to provide the opportunities for the FF, FE, and F600 classes to have majors points events at those same tracks, and for those regions to have an event that included those racers. The concept of the bonus majors program is pretty simple. For FF, FV, and F600, participating in their class on these weekends will earn points towards conference majors championships and, importantly, participation towards runoffs qualifications. Those events that are scheduled are Sebring, February 8th and 9th, VIR, May 3rd and 4th, the Glen, May 31st, June 1st, Road Atlanta, July 18th to the 20th, and Mid-Ohio, August 9th and 10th. Hallett and NOLA did not have regional race opportunities, or we would have worked with those regions to hold those bonus majors with them as well. That means in 2025, there will be 33 U.S. Majors Tour races for FF, FV, and F600 across the schedule of 25 conference majors, 5 bonus majors, and 3 Super Tour events. With no Hoosier Super Tour Championship for those classes in 2025, the CRB did approve a request to waive the points requirements for runoffs qualification for FF and FV for this year, meaning drivers need to only meet the weekend and race finish participation requirements.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Okay, all this national racing stuff is great, but what about regional racing and entry-level programs? Regional racing with the GCR remains the backbone of the program in many parts of the country. And where that is healthy, it will carry on as the local regions and the divisions see fit. The Race Experience program focuses on bringing new drivers into a road racing environment. In 2024, the club racing experience and enduro efforts merged into a single program focused on low barriers to entry and getting drivers on track for a fun experience. Much of the GCR is focused on managing and officiating close competition. Race Experience borrows the safety elements and is working to modernize the path from a racing fan to a racing driver with a focus on mentoring that experience. We now have race event participation, whether it's through a club racing experience or an enduro, that now counts toward a competition license. And if you haven't heard about the race school element of the Race Experience program, I urge you to join John's sessions, the first one at 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday, and then again at 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday evening. There are some great easy access formats that you can plug into your existing events to invite new participants into the program, or to build the entire a day or weekend around a new fun and rewarding racing opportunity. Okay, so now we'll cover some of the 2025 initiatives for the road racing program. Each year we utilize developments in technology to advance the program, and 2024 was a big step forward and toward ushering in a new safety technology with Flagtronics. Excuse me. The Flagtronics flagging system is supplementary to traditional flags. It features an in-car unit called a FT200, which displays local and full course conditions. It's GPS based. I forgot to update the bullet in here that had the $249 base price. It is the base unit is now $299. They raised their price for the first time ever since they first started Flagtronics. There is a smaller unit available now. It says smaller unit coming. That didn't get updated. Apologize for that. That smaller unit comes in 2 components, and it's designed for smaller cockpit cars. And that unit, because there's more pieces to it, is a little bit more expensive with the base price of $549. Both of those prices are one-time fees for the hardware. So you buy it once, you put it in your car. You don't have to buy a subscription and maintain that subscription, unlike some of the other things that racers have to use within our program. The units receive from, and then they transmit to race control. So the cars and race control are linked all the way around the track to deliver and receive critical messages. What would race control need to receive from a car? Well, information like where they are, if they've registered an impact, and or if they're moving slowly on course. We also put them in all the safety vehicles so that race control can see where they are at any given time as well. We operated Flagtronics at each Hoosier Super Tour event in 2024, but the use by drivers was optional. It was mandatory for the 24 runoffs. We got a lot of good information out of it. Appreciate everybody's patience in working through some new procedures with us. Once again, we learned a lot, and we will again require it at the runoffs in 2025. Now, before that, starting with the March Super Tour in Atlanta, Flagtronics will become mandatory at all Hoosier Super Tours. Really, the best way to unlock all of the functionality and benefits of the Flagtronics units is to have them in each of the cars on track. There are a tremendous amount of features built within the system, and it's constantly being developed and improved. In addition to the safety aspects, it will help provide smoother sessions and in support of the Green to Checker initiative. We have an entire session on Flagtronics to discuss what we've learned up to this point and have further discussions with the membership about how to best utilize this great tool. So please join us tomorrow, Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern for that Zoom meeting. As we mentioned earlier, the SCCA Academy has been a critical component of developing the next generation of workers, standing up the flagging and communications training module. Any member can take the F&C training course, and upon completion of that will receive a certified F&C license that corresponds with their grade of license. So new flaggers will receive a certified regional license, with divisional, national, and senior license holders adding the certified tag to their license once they complete the course. All regional F&C license holders are now required to take the course. Starting in December of this year, so December 2025, all divisional license holders will need to complete the course to renew their license, followed by national license holders in December of 2026. In addition to the flagging communications online training, Chris Robbins and the team are working diligently with leaders of the stewards community, that training and development committee that we mentioned earlier, to incorporate steward training into the SCCA Academy in 2025. And as Mike mentioned in his sessions, part of our partnership with IMSA's support of the Academy was developing an IMSA flagging and communications training course, with the SCCA course being a prerequisite to take that. So this details the differences between being an SCCA flagger and being an SCCA event marshal, such as at next week's Rolex 24 at Daytona. You saw Sydney Yeagle on our staff page earlier. She's a big part of why we are reversing the downward trend in SCCA volunteer license holders. I invite you to join her session, inviting new volunteers to your road racing program, which is Monday at 6. And then also please join Chris Robbins to learn more about the SCCA Academy and training opportunities Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Green to Checker is still an initiative or a movement that we began researching and discussing in 2022. It's still an important part of how we look at events, how we structure events, how we operate them, and how we participate in them as drivers, as workers, and as officials. Part of that project is very heavy on data collection, extraction, input, and analysis. Unfortunately, with the many changes and initiatives that were new in 2024, we've not been able to update that data study adequately. It doesn't mean it's still not important, and we should not endeavor to all strive for green to checkered sessions. Our hope is to update that data part of it with incident logs, time logs, trends, etc., throughout 2025.
All right, that's a wrap. Taking a look back at 2024 and a good look ahead at the 2020-25 season. Just a friendly reminder, we do have a couple of town hall sessions coming up, so tune in tomorrow at 1 Eastern, 12 noon Central for the Tech Town Hall with our very own S1 and S2. Monday is a pretty packed day for us. We have the race experience event formats with JK, 5 Eastern, 4 Central, followed by a session with Sydney on inviting new volunteers to your events. That's at 6 Eastern, 5 Central. And then we will close out Monday with the Road Racing Town Hall with Chairman of the Stewards, Kevin Coulter, and CRB Chairman John LaRue. And I believe that's at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. So be sure to tune in for all the other great sessions that are scheduled throughout the convention this week. And I believe we have about a little over 10 minutes. Thanks for watching. And if you all have any questions, we might be able to answer a few. I saw one pop up there about the 26
Yeah,
runoffs. So
so
I'll let Eric do that one.
well, yeah, so first of all, in the questions, Stu asked, the last I heard about prototype, there was going to be both P and P2 classes. We have both at our Homestead majors. Yes, prototype and P2 are both majors and super tour classes. But when we get to the runoffs, there is one prototype class at the runoffs, the P class. There in the chat, there's a question about the 26 runoffs event location. When does that get announced? Well, Ethan, we would have hoped to have announced that by now, and we will announce that as soon as we have a signed agreement with the venue. So working on that, and hope to have that completed very soon and announced ASAP. Yeah, had a comment. Thank you, Rick. Please clarify that the 25 June sprint single race will actually count as two races. And there's a distinction there. Because it's moved to a single event, it will, in order to make it essentially count similarly to the other super tour events and the other majors events that have two races, the single race will count twice. It will not, some people may use the term double points. There's a slight nuance between double points and counting a race twice. Double points would indicate that one race in the championship is worth more points than another race. That's not the case. These races will count twice, as if it was at a two-race event. There's a question about when the 2025 GCR will be available in Amazon. Jeff, I don't have the answer to that one off the top of my head. I don't know if you do.
I don't. That's probably a better question for Mr. Dobler. So
yeah. Yes,
sorry.
I think if you join the Tech Town Hall session
Yeah.
Tomorrow, that will be answered, and we'll get the answer to that as well and share that information in the Road Racing Town Hall again on Monday. Okay, seeing no additional questions coming in. Jeff, I think we may have missed one of the initiatives to talk about, and that is there are some new opportunities that we're exploring. We saw a new regional class come in 2024 for Radical. You want to tell us about that market and some exciting things that we're working with them on?
Yeah, sure. And I don't know if many of you know my background or not, but I was actually with Radical prior to coming to the SCCA and had been working with the CRB and their committee on getting classes specifically for those cars, because those cars are spec cars. And most people don't realize that the Radical is actually the number two uh, purchased race car, specific race car in the world in OEM. Just Porsche is the one that's above it. We did some surveys while I was at Radical, and there's actually between 580 and probably now 620 active Radicals in the United States alone. And the reason we just don't see them here running in SCCA. So that was one of the big targets for us, was to try to get to work with the club to provide the opportunities. You do see the Radicals in the Pro Series, but when you look at those numbers, it's really about between 32 and 35 that run the Pro Series. So a lot of those guys, those owners of those cars, were asking for more opportunities. So that was the first step, was just getting the classes established, and they are. And we are hoping to roll out some initiatives along with Radical in the coming weeks to provide some great opportunities for them to get into our events. Obviously, we all know that there's some challenges to get into the club, and we want to lower those barriers to entry and make sure that all the regions are working with a bunch of potential new members and drivers. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll hear a lot more from that shortly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining this session. Again, please don't forget to hit the rate button within the Whova app to let us know how the presentation went, how the session went. And if you all have any more additional questions, obviously we have the town halls coming up. We have tomorrow and then Monday evening, where we will have CRB and the executive stewards represented in that one as well. So if you are rooting for a football team today, good luck. My team is out. I think Jeff's team is out. So we'll just sit back and watch and enjoy the rest of the sessions that are happening today and tomorrow throughout the week. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.